Many people expect graduating college or university to be one of the happiest moments in their life. However, it's not uncommon for people to fall into a state of great depression and anxiety after graduating. I know I was one of those people. Research has actually been done on this topic of depression and anxiety following graduation. A 2021 study by Gu et al. Involving 27,717 postgraduate students between the years 1980 and 2020 found that more than 1/3 of the postgraduate students reported having depression and anxiety after graduating. So if you are going through depression and anxiety after graduating, you're definitely not alone on this one. I personally have experienced a whole lot of depression and anxiety after graduating university. I graduated first in 2018 and then recently in 2024 from another degree. In fact, I think the reason I went into the other degree was because of the anxiety and depression I've experienced from the first degree. After graduating university, I fell into a deep state of depression. All I wanted to do was stay in bed all day, sleep, do nothing else, pretty much just crawl up into a ball and sleep. I had no motivation to do anything at all, even the things I used to like. For example, I used to like going fishing and going to the gym. Didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted to stay in bed. I would also get very overwhelmed by little tiny things that I had to do. For example, if I had to renew my license or go to the medical center or something, just tiny little things that I had to get, even brushing my teeth, little personal hygiene things. When you're in that state of depression, little tiny things overwhelm you and you just want to get back into your bed and go back to sleep. I also had no appetite, so I just didn't want to eat anything at all. I lost about 12 kilograms after graduating because I just didn't want to eat a thing. I had no interest in food at all. I also felt like just crying all the time. There would be times where I just cry for no reason. It's like there's a switch in your brain that's just turned to the wrong setting and you just want to cry. One of the worst things was the brain fog. It's this heavy fog in your head. It almost feels like there are air pockets in your head and you can't think straight. This was probably one of the most debilitating things for me. It feels like there's something cognitively wrong in your head. Everything just feels so foggy and it's just the worst feeling. If you've experienced this brain fog when you're depressed, hit me up in the comments because it is the absolute worst thing. It's hard to say, but when you are in that depressed state, you do have some really dark, depressing thoughts about not being here anymore, and you think about sleeping tablets and things you could do to just take all the sadness and pain away. And those thoughts just pop into your head every now and then. And you think to yourself, I won't act on them, but I've never felt like that before, where you're toying with ideas of taking away the pain. Sleep is also another huge thing that I struggled with after graduating university and falling into this depression. I would wake up every night at like 3 a.m, just anxious and on edge. And this was a cycle I got into, and I've read quite a bit on it, and sleep disruption when you're depressed and have a lot of anxiety is very common. And then it sends you into a bit of a cycle because without sleep, you become even more depressed and anxious. So I really tried to focus on improving my sleep, but it was very hard and I really struggled with sleep. I also withdrew a lot, so I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to see... This is the catch as well, because I was needy, but also I didn't want to see people in social settings. Even my partner, I withdrew a lot. Like I would get phone calls and I'd be on edge to answer the call. It was really strange because you are needy, but at the same time you don't want to socialize or do anything. You withdraw from society and you want to just be in your own cocoon at home, a place where you can control. There were lots of feelings of being hopeless. You just think to yourself, like, what's the point of all this? And you do start thinking pretty existentially about life, and you think, what's the point of this? You struggle to find the happy moments in life. Even though we're surrounded by things, like I do really appreciate nature and the little moments like sunrises and just beautiful little things like plants outside. But when you are in a deep depression, you really struggle to think, what is the point of all this? You just feel so hopeless. So what are the causes of depression and anxiety after university? Well, firstly, for me, I was very burnt out after graduating university. I just come off 2 pracs. I had a massive portfolio of work I had to do. I was shot out. I was completely burnt out after graduating. And then I thought about having to get a job, having to transition into the adult world, and all the stress and burnout really made me fall into a state of depression just because there was too much going on. I had just finished this massive 4-year degree, and now I was thinking about the future already, and all the stress together just made me fall into a really dark place, and my body was telling me like, it's too much, Justin, it's too much. And that's why I really thought I fell into a state of depression, because there was just lots of stress all at once, lots of anxiety, thinking about the what ifs about the job and if I could do it. So this might be a cause for you too, but it's definitely one of the main causes for me, just a lot of stress and burnout from the degree itself. I know I was also feeling very unprepared for the next phase of my life, to start working properly and to move from university into the work life. I just felt very underprepared, and you might feel like this too. You finish your degree and you think, God, have I actually learned enough? I don't feel ready for this at all. I feel like I'm just not prepared. I need to do another degree almost. And that's one of the main reasons I actually did do another degree. Because in my first degree, I felt so underprepared that I just thought, God, I don't think this is for me then. I need to study more. So I ended up staying in my comfort zone and just doing another degree, which ended up being very expensive, and I wouldn't recommend it. Feeling underprepared for work life is one of the main reasons too, and that brings a lot of anxiety. A lot of anxiety. There's also a lot of anxiety that comes with change. I know for me, I have generalized anxiety disorder, but it's normal to finish university and feel a lot of anxiety for change, because it is a big change. You're finally stepping away from the educational world, which you've been in for maybe, 15 plus years of your life, even more. And that fear of change, it can be debilitating. I know even if you do have anxiety before, it's even more compounded and you just feel terrified. It's a scary time of your life, changing from one thing to another. Even when you would go from high school into university, that's a big change as well that can lead to a lot of anxiety and depression. But at least you're still in the education system. Now you're going from university into the work life and you just feel like it's too much. But you've got to see the positives from it. Another reason for depression and anxiety after graduating is that your vision for post-graduation life doesn't link up with the reality of post-graduation life. You might have found yourself in a job that you don't really like, and you think, or maybe you think, was this degree really for me? And you just think, this isn't what I thought it would be like after I graduate. There's a lot of pressure that comes from graduating university. A lot of family and friends are probably asking, so what are you going to do now? Where are you going to work? Have you handed in resumes? You've just finished this huge thing. You feel like you need to sit back a bit and just take it all in, and people are already pressuring you. So that's another reason that you may fall into a state of depression, anxiety. Just a lot of pressure from family, friends. I get quite upset because sometimes when you go to family events, instead of people asking like, how are you actually? It's always, oh, what are you doing for work? Have you got a job yet? It's straight to business. It's never the actual important questions like, how are you feeling? So a lot of pressure from family and friends can lead to anxiety. Employment uncertainty can also cause a lot of anxiety and depression. I know for a lot of places around the world, getting a job is quite a difficult thing because it's so competitive. So when you finish your degree and you think, God, I don't know if I can get a job, I don't know if I'll be able to support myself because I can't find work, that can cause a lot of anxiety and depression too. When you're at university, it's very social. You're in groups, you see the same people on a daily routine. It's nice to have that, but when you graduate, you can get quite isolated because you've gone from a place where it's very stable and you see the same people and you might do the same things with them, and then you lose all that. So that's definitely a factor that can cause depression, anxiety, just losing your social structures. Lack of routine can also cause a lot of depression and anxiety. When you're at university, you're used to being told what to do, when to do an assignment, when you've got class. When you graduate, you're just at home and you feel like you've just been chewed up and spat out. You don't know what to do with yourself. It's up to you to make your routine. This is one of the main things that made me feel quite anxious and depressed. Just not having that structure that you had at university. External things like world events and the cost of living can also cause a lot of depression and anxiety after university. With the cost of housing going through the roof, coronavirus, just lots of things going on. It can also contribute to your anxiety and depression. I know for me, I'm constantly looking at the price of housing and thinking, how am I going to afford a place? I'm gonna have to be like some kind of millionaire to actually get like a normal sized property. And I think this definitely led to some of my depression too, because you just think, it looks like a unclimbable mountain when you think of it. And I've just dedicated my degree, and now people are telling me, oh, degrees don't mean shit and that you're not gonna have enough money. So definitely external events can contribute to that. So now that I've told you about some of the things I experienced in my depression and anxiety following graduation from university, I hope you've been able to relate to a few of them, because I know when I was in my state of depression, my episode of depression and anxiety, I tried to look for people online who had gone through similar things, because I think it really does help when you talk to someone or you find an article online that kind of explains a situation or a scenario that you're going through as well, because it makes you feel like you're not alone. And you definitely aren't alone if you're experiencing depression and anxiety following graduation or any big change in your life. You're definitely not alone, and there's lots of ways we can get you back to feeling better again. So just hang in there. Please hang in there. It's going to get better, and it's not going to be like this forever. I promise you. I promise you. I've been through it, and I didn't think I would ever get through it, but there's always sunshine at the end of the rain. I promise you. Just hang in there. I'm going to give you some advice if you're going through a deep depression, or you've got a lot of anxiety in your life, or you've just graduated college or university and you're feeling like I did, just very depressed, very anxious about life, and you need a few tips. I'm not a qualified psychologist or medical practitioner, but I have been through it, and maybe some of these tips can help you too. I know they helped me quite a bit. My first tip is take the time to recover. It's gonna take a bit of time to get you feeling back to normal again, to get you at a baseline where you feel like you can cope with life sometimes. Because when you do get yourself in such a depressed and anxious state, you feel like you're operating way below your baseline, like you're not a normal person anymore. So my first piece of advice is take the time. Take all the time you need and go easy on yourself. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take rest. It might be a week, it might be a month, it might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be a year. Don't be hard on yourself. It's gonna take time. Learn to love yourself and be easy on yourself, because when I graduated university and I fell into the state of depression and anxiety, I thought, Justin, you need to get your shit together. This has to be like a week fix, because you need to get a job, you need to sort your life out. And I got myself in such a headspin, because when you do fall into a state of depression and anxiety, it's not a quick fix. It's gonna take gradual little steps. I mean, you might not even get yourself out of bed for a month or something. Like, it's gonna take tiny steps, but gradually you'll get back to the way you were and on a functioning level. Because when you are in that state, you have all these negative thoughts like, what are you doing? Why are you still in bed? Why can't you just function like everyone else? And you start comparing yourself. But you're not everyone else, and it's going to take as much time as you need to get back to what you were. So my first piece of advice, be easy on yourself and take as much time as you need to recover. It's not a quick fix. In saying that, I would also really try and prioritize sleep. So your body's going through a lot of stress, the cortisol is flowing through you. Definitely prioritize resting, taking it easy, as long as it takes, as long as the amount of time it takes. Just prioritize sleep. And don't feel bad if it takes you a while to get out of bed in the morning or been in bed for a while. Don't beat yourself up and call yourself a loser, because you're not. You're amazing. You've just gone through a tough time in your life, and it's gonna take some time to get back. When I say be kind to yourself and take as much time as you need, I really mean that. And you must very slowly start adding things to your day that can get you improving. So even if it's get out of bed at a specific time, say you've been getting out of bed at 10, you can have a goal for the day, get out of bed at 9:30. You can have a tiny goal for maybe walking around the block once, maybe putting on a load of washing. Take very small steps to getting back to how you were. Do the maximum of what you feel like is capable. Don't load lots of tasks onto your day that you don't feel capable of. Take it very, very slow and only do what you feel capable of. So for example, I would put loads of things like go to the gym, wash my car, renew my number plate, lots of things on here. And if it's too much, and if you're in a state where you are really depressed and anxious, it's gonna overload you. You need to start off really, really basic. And even if it's read a chapter of a book, talk to your parents, talk to a sibling, just tiny steps. Even if it's clean half of your room, just take little steps to getting back to how you were. And then gradually add things when you feel up to it. For example, I would go for a tiny 10-minute walk around the block when I was really, really in my worst depressed state. And then, for example, I would say in another month, maybe go to the gym for 10 minutes. And even if I did a few things at the gym and then walked out, that was still a big win. And then maybe a month from then, I would stay at the gym a little bit longer. So just go easy on yourself. Take tiny, tiny steps to getting back to how you used to be. And a great way to doing this is to make a checklist. So if you get a little bit of paper and you write a few things on that you want to accomplish the next day, for example, like I said, you could meditate for 5 minutes and then you could tick that off. And that could be the only thing you could do for the day. And then gradually you could add to that list. So definitely use a checklist. I highly recommend using a checklist. It's definitely a good tool to keep you motivated and also to track your progress, because if 2 weeks go by and you can look back to your first list and think, hey, the first thing I did was clean a tiny part of my room and now I'm going to the gym or back to work, it'll feel really good to know how far you've come. The next piece of advice, remove as much stress from your life as possible. So I know a lot of people have to work to survive, but if you are in a position where you can take some time off work and just remove that stress, you could go and live with your parents for a little bit. That is going to make a huge difference if you just remove as much stress from your life as possible. Even if that's cutting people out of your life who don't understand your depression and who are treating you poorly. I know for me, removing social media out of my life when I was really depressed and anxious was a really good thing for me, because you're always comparing yourself to other people. And after graduating, it's quite a vulnerable time because you're comparing yourself and you're seeing people getting jobs, you're seeing people buying new cars with the money they've just got, and you start to think, God, why have I not got that? What's wrong with me? So my next piece of advice is remove as much stress from your life as possible. So for example, delete apps that make you stressed, maybe cut out people from your life who aren't supportive and don't make you feel happy. Maybe it's not watching as much terrible news on TV that constantly throws all these terrible wars and economic problems in your face. Just cut out as much stress as possible. This should probably go at the start of the list. It's find a good psychologist and a good general practitioner. When you are experiencing depression and anxiety after graduating, it is really important to have a good support system. And the first port of call is probably going to a general practitioner or GP, telling them how you feel, maybe getting some blood tests done, a checkup, just to see if there's nothing underlying that's making you feel depressed and anxious. And then from there, they'll give you a referral to a psychologist. And that's exactly what I did. And it's really going to make a difference having that support system around you. You don't feel so alone anymore. You feel like you've got some people who are bringing you up and who are there to make you feel better. But my piece of advice is don't stop looking until you found a really good GP and psychologist. Because there's a lot of practitioners who aren't going to be suited to you, who don't understand depression and anxiety that well. You might not just vibe with them. I hate to say vibe, but sometimes you talk to people and you think, yeah, this is my kind of person. I think I can have a good relationship with them. So don't be disheartened if you go to a GP or you go to a psychologist and you don't get on with them. It's not your fault all the time. If you've had a few appointments and you just think, I don't think they're for me, go to another one. Keep looking, because there will be some out there that you really click with and you really feel like you're supported. Because I know I've been to a few GPs and they don't really understand depression and anxiety. They probably might not have had it themselves or something like that. So don't stop looking if you don't feel like you've found the right one. That's my piece of advice. But definitely go and seek medical help. Please try and continue to eat healthy. If you're feeling anxious and depressed and you're in a bad state, just continue to eat healthy, because food is definitely going to make you feel a bit better. I took the complete opposite advice because I didn't want to eat anything. I lost 12 kilograms after graduating university, and when I fell into my depression, I didn't want to eat anything, but I really should have, because it didn't help with the fatigue, the tiredness. So my next piece of advice would be, make sure you eat, and eat healthy, because it is going to boost your mood, it is going to boost your energy. Sleep is the foundation to health. So another piece of advice I would give you is prioritize your sleep. Like I said earlier, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, don't go on devices too close to bed, don't have caffeine too close to bed, just all those tips and tricks that you may have heard elsewhere about sleep. Prioritize sleep, because if you don't sleep properly, it severely affects your mood. You are going to be, even if you're not depressed and anxious and you have a bad sleep, you wake up and you feel on edge, and you easily stress out, and you don't feel good. So another piece of advice is really prioritize sleep and make sure you're getting the best possible sleep. I know a tip that I've really enjoyed is reading before bed, because that helps me fall asleep. You might listen to a podcast or something. But when I was in my depression, my sleep was really, really affected. So doing every little possible thing I could to get my sleep back in order, it made a world of difference, because it really improves your mood when you've had a good sleep. I suggest looking at podcasts from Matthew Walker or Andrew Huberman on sleep, because they're experts. Really prioritize your sleep. It'll make a world of difference. Exercise is another massive tip that got me feeling much better and pulled me out of my depression and anxiety. Exercise releases those hormones that make you feel good, and even seeing little improvements in the gym, it gives you a little boost that really helps to pull you out of that depressed state. I would suggest starting really small, like I said, even if it's a walk around the block. Then you could up that to a longer walk, maybe a run, and then eventually try and get into the gym, lift some weight. It's very cliche to say, but exercise, it really, really does help in improving your mood and to pull you out of a state of depression and anxiety. Like I said, keep it small in the beginning, work up, but exercise for me completely changed the game. And it's one of those cliche things that is always said, but exercise, I promise you, it may suck when you're there, but it's like an investment. You're going through that pain and that suffering, and then afterwards you're going to feel much better, and that feeling of much betterness lasts a lot longer than the feeling of pain when you're doing exercise. Next big piece of advice that helped me a lot was talking to my friends and family. I'm lucky in the way that I tend to be quite open, and I can discuss things quite easily. I know some people, it's really hard to talk to their family about how they're feeling. They might not have that relationship with their parents, but opening up to people and telling them that you're not feeling great and that you're a bit depressed or anxious really will make you feel better, especially if you're surrounded by supportive people who love you and understand depression and anxiety. If you don't have those people, like I said, talking to a psychologist or a medical practitioner will really help. It takes the burden off your shoulders a bit. You feel a bit lighter. I know every time I go to my psychologist, I come out just feeling a bit lighter. And you can get that experience by talking to your parents, your friends. Even online, I feel if you go onto communities, like I know Reddit has a lot of depression forums and anxiety forums, even seeing that other people are there and have gone through similar things to you will really make you feel lighter, and you feel like there's support out there. So definitely another piece of advice that's really important is talk to people. Just adding to this, when you are going through a lot of depression and anxiety, it's when you need the most support in your life as you can get. So really try and open yourself up and get as much support as you can get, because we're not built as people to be lonely. We're meant to have a tribe around us that can big us up when we're not feeling well, or that can be there for us when we need a hand. So really try and open up and surround yourself with people. Don't isolate yourself. This is when you need people the most. Surrounding yourself in nature is also a great way to feel a bit better. We as humans, for thousands and thousands of years, have got a lot of happiness and life from nature. So I found that going for walks in nature, in the bush or near the sea, even going outside and just sitting in the garden for a while, did make me feel a lot better. So that would be another piece of advice. Surround yourself with nature. Realizing that after university, you're expected to be a bit anxious and on edge about the next phase of your life also helped me to get out of my depression and anxiety. When I realized that we're expected to make mistakes when we start our jobs, and that we're expected to be green and not know what we're doing, is a normal part of the transition into the work life, it made me feel a bit better, because automatically I thought we'd be chucked out of university and just expected to be experts in our field. So when I thought about it, and when I realized that no, these businesses are used to having new grads and they're used to training people up, they want to invest in you, that made me feel a lot better. So just realizing that as new graduates, we're meant to make mistakes and that it's normal. We're gonna learn, we're gonna grow, and you're not gonna be perfect for a long, long time. It might take years before you don't make silly mistakes. That helped calm my anxiety a lot, because all these voices in my head kept telling me, oh, you're not good enough, Justin, you're gonna fail. Yeah, so just realizing that helped me a lot. And I hope you realize that too. When you start your job, it's gonna be slow progress. You're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna look like an idiot probably, but people are expecting that, and it's completely normal.